Well, I know this is a comedy show, and there's some really funny people that are going to be coming up and performing. I'm not a comedian, you know, that's the funny thing about it. Now, the people at work, they tell me they should come do these comedy things, and I don't get it because I'm actually a really serious person. So when I'm up in front of an audience, what I try to do is be socially responsible. And I'm usually the oldest man in the room, so I will convey some of the things that I learned in life that were really painful. And that way, you young people can learn this without going through the same trauma I did. For example, don't believe everything you read. Anybody here already figured that one out? You did? Okay, good. I just hope that it wasn't as hard for you as it was for me because, see, I get my heavy reading done when I'm at the grocery store, at the checkout line. There are all those newspapers there with, like, really interesting stuff like, you know, who's cheating on who's had cosmetic surgery, who's anorexic, who's overweight, the stuff I care about. Well, a while back, there was a headline in one of these papers, and it said, "Vegetarian vampires discovered. They suck the sap from trees." And, I mean, that amazed me, because, you know, here you have this whole new species of animal or plant, I mean, who knows what, and my friends at work who are, like, all hoity-toity because they read Time and Newsweek, they didn't know anything about it. You had to read my papers to like, know. So I laid it on a little thick the next day at work. You know, anytime somebody walked by, I'd ask them, "Hey, what do you think about them vegetarian vampires?" And you give me a blank look, and I'd show them the article, let them know that they just didn't know shit. Well, end of the day, this asshole Doug stands up. He's this guy in the cubicle next to me. And he says, "Stache, I've been hearing you carrying on all day long about these vegetarian vampires, and I want you to know it doesn't add up." I said, "Oh, yeah, Doug, you got a problem?" He said, "Yeah. Okay, think about it. If the only thing these guys consume is tree sap, the right word should be vegan, not vegetarian." So right away, you know, this writer is no subject matter expert. And think about it, it doesn't fit the whole laws of nature. You know, you got predators, they've got weapons, they attack. You've got prey, they have defenses. Now what's a tree supposed to do when one of these vegetarian vampires shows up? It can't run. It can't hide. Can't pretend it's a moth and fly away. Something doesn't add up. Oh. Man, I mean, you know, Doug's an asshole, but you all got to agree. I mean, he really thought this thing through. And I couldn't understand, like, how a respected publication like the Weekly World News could get a story so wrong. It just really bothered me. I couldn't concentrate on anything else. I went home, and I was just, like, flipping through the channels mindlessly with a remote, and it ended on one of these dead stations, like, you know, the Discovery Channel, something like that. And there was a show about making maple syrup. And you had, like, these old Vermont farmers. They were carrying buckets up into this mountain to collect tree sap. And it was cold. They were all bundled up. And they were moving really stiff. And it sort of occurred to me that if you didn't have the sound on, you might think that you were looking at a bunch of zombies, you know, or vampires or something like that. And I bet you that's what the whole thing is all about, that this reporter couldn't figure out how to undo the mute button. He wrote this article. It was all bogus. Right? Unless, of course, they really were vegetarian vampires and they disguised themselves as Vermont farmers. Now, that would be a real serious problem. Because, the ones I saw, like, not only were they all old, they were all men. So there would be, like, no way that the species could propagate itself. You know, now, maybe they, like, take humans and transform them, but they were in the mountains of Vermont, and there just aren't a whole bunch of people out there. So it would have to be something that they do long distance. But like, the only thing that would connect them with people far away is the maple syrup. Now, pancakes is my favorite meal. So this would be really bad, because, like, I don't want to transform into a vegetarian vampire. I mean, you know, think about it. Okay, it'd be one thing if you're born that way, you've got a mother, she teaches you how to live, how to survive. If you're, like, out here in the middle of Arlington and you're, like, slowly transforming into a vegetarian vampire, you need to figure this all out yourself. I don't know, and maybe there's, like, some trees you can suck the sap, it's fine. Others, it, like, messes up your digestive tract, all right? And it would take you months to sort through all that, and the whole time, you'd be barfing up the wrong trees. And also, what about my job, you know? I mean, I can just imagine how the boss comes out, it's lunchtime, he says, "Hey, Stache, we're all going to McDonald's, you want to join us?" And I'd sort of say, "Nah, man, I'm just going to go to the park and chill." And asshole Doug, he'd probably, you know, say, "Yeah, you go to the park every day." You know, the boss would say, "Look out my window, Stache, it's like pouring rain today." And then Doug would probably say something like, "I was just there the other day, too, and, like, this park is getting funky, like, all the trees are dying." You know, I think they'd figure it out pretty soon. I'd lose my job. My family needs my income. I can't afford that. So I've stopped eating pancakes. And I gotta tell you, it's a huge loss to me because, like, not only is pancakes my favorite meal, but I usually went to like this diner near my house where there's this waitress, I mean a really hot waitress named Rosie, and like I was her favorite customer, okay? I know that because the moment I would walk in the door, the first person that would see me would shout out, "Hey Rosie, Rosie, it's your favorite!" And it didn't matter what she was doing, she would stop, she would turn around with a big smile on her face, she would grab me by my hand and take me right to my table. I had a table of my own, like in the middle of the restaurant, and then she would go to the kitchen to get my food. It usually was already waiting for me. And okay, I really like pancakes, and so I like to make a special deal, make it into a special occasion, all right? And this diner it's a nice place, it's really comfortable, but for example, they don't have any tablecloths on the tables, so I bring a tablecloth with me. Okay. And I like this to be like a really pleasurable experience. And all of us, we all have like easy access to the tools that we would need to create pleasure. So. And I'm kind of guessing by now, some of you have probably figured out that I've got a few idiosyncrasies or peccadillos or something like that, you know. Okay, one of them is I can't stand to eat using silverware that's been in somebody else's mouth. I mean, it doesn't matter how often it's been washed. I can't stand it, okay? So I bring my own knife and fork with me. Oh,
Take it off.
And I know what you're all thinking now, okay? You're probably saying to yourselves, this is going to be a mess, okay? Like this old man, he's going to get like pancakes and syrup all over his mustache, all over his chest hairs, and I got it covered, okay? Because I bring a bib with me. Now, the weird thing is when I put on my bib, I get the strangest looks from the people in the restaurant, and I'm guessing that they just figure that bibs are for babies and not for old men. So before I put it on, I just want to check. I mean, is anybody going to be offended if I wear a bib?
No.
No? Okay, good. Okay, now, I'm ready to eat, and by now Rosie's got my food ready, because she, you know, they're always expecting me at this place. And she brings it to me, and, okay, like I said, I love pancakes, and I've got a special way of eating them, okay? I want to make sure that, like, all the flavors get mixed together. So I'll take the butter, and I'll spread it on the top bun, and I'll put it, like, between the buns, and I'll make sure it's nice and greasy. I get my sausage, and I slide it between the buns, and I work it around, and I pull it out, and in and out, and in and out, and in and out. And then at just the right moment, I pop it in my mouth, I squeeze, the hot juices come squirting out, and sometimes they dribble down my chin, and I get so happy and so excited. I lose myself in pleasure, and the amazing thing is that the whole restaurant is feeling my pleasure. I know this because everywhere you look, people have huge smiles, they're laughing out loud. How often have you been in a room full of strangers where everybody was laughing? Okay, it didn't happen today yet, right? Okay, and all of that is gone.
Oh, man.
Okay, I don't have my favorite meal anymore. Rosie's lost her favorite customer. The patrons don't have the shared pleasure, all because some writer couldn't figure out how to undo the remote button, the mute button, which is why I'm trying to tell you all, don't believe everything you read. Whoa. Wow. Have any of you like ever like had this weird idea like just pop in your head and, like out of nowhere? Like, because right now I'm thinking that if I wanted to impress Rosie, I should go suck on an oak tree or some other hardwood. And the like really the weird thing is I don't even know where to find an oak tree. You know, my neighbor used to have one, but it started dying a few months ago, and they cut it down last week. Like, do any of you know where I can find an oak tree? I mean, I really would like to find an oak tree, okay? I mean, look, I've been here like teaching you something invaluable in life. Can you give something back, maybe? No? Okay, you guys are worthless. I'm busy. I'm out of here. My name is Stache. Don't believe everything you read.
Yeah.